Kut and its significance. What is Kut? Kut means festival in many dialects of the Kuki tribes. Kuki people have been celebrating many Kuts or festivals since olden days. For instance, Mim Kut is celebrated after the harvest of Rabi crop Mim, Job's year, in early part of the year. Mim Kut is a state-recognized festival for the Kukis in Nagaland. Chap Haokip is celebrated at the onset of spring when the mowed-down vegetations are dried in the sun and readied for burning down for jumming cultivation in anticipation of the food crops that will be sown soon. Hun Kut or simply Hun is celebrated after seed sowing in summer. Hun Day, April 17th, is declared recently a restricted holiday by Manipur government. Lom Kut is celebrated when the traditional Lom, labor team, completes all the necessary labors of seed sowings and weedings. In later part of the year, i.e., in autumn, Chong Kut is celebrated when farmers finish harvesting their food crops, especially paddy, chong, giving thanks to the Almighty for giving them the fruits of their year-long labor. In this way, Kuki people have celebrated various Kuts, festivals, in tune with the changing seasons of the year, marking specific events. In other words, right from the beginning of the seed sowing till the harvest, the Kuki people who have been traditionally farmers celebrated each stage of the development of the food crops. The present Shivang, autumn, Kut or simply Kut is perhaps derived from Chong Kut to mark the season of paddy harvest. Olden Kut in olden days Kuts were celebrated with varied traditional fervor. Folk dances such as Sagwal Kengkai, Sudalam, modern bamboo dance, Fit Lam, Lamkwal, etc. were performed as merrymaking. Traditional sports like Sudam Ko, a form of javelin throw, Kunkle/Sealkal, high jump/jumping over a standing mathin, Kibuit/Boanchual, wrestling, etc. were showcased to the enthusiastic spectators. In the same way, traditional musical instruments such as gozum, bagpipe, feel, flute, penkal, trumpet, feepit, lemelhai, etc. were played and competitions in these events were organized. The whole celebration of Kuts lasted generally from 3 days to a week. Modern Kut. Fast forward to modern day, the modern Kuts are celebrated the way we see today. The Kut in question may be dated back to 1979 when state-level Shivang Kut celebration was first held at Keithalmanbi village in Kangpokpi district. One significant addition to the Shivang Kut celebration is beauty contest, which came to be famous as Miss Kut. Years later Shivang was deleted for want of commonality amongst the Kut celebrating tribes. Manipur state government declared Kut a state holiday in 1990. The week-long celebration became a one-day extravaganza and the village-level festivity has become a state-level celebration. The format may change or the perception towards Kut celebrations may differ now, but the fact remains that it is a significant event which stands as proof that Kuki people walk together with time and they can never forget the giver of all harvests. This year, in view of the current situation in Manipur, Kut is not celebrated but observed in village level as day of prayer for peace and paying of homage to the departed martyrs. Shivang Kut. For the first time in India's independent history, we the Kukis are unable to celebrate the auspicious Shivang Kut festival. We are denied our cultural rights as enshrined in Article 29. Kut is a term often used interchangeably with festival or harvesting festival, and it holds significant cultural importance for the Chinkuki Mizo community. The observance of Kut is rooted in 3 fundamental principles. It serves as a time for the hardworking agricultural community to take a break from their labor and enjoy recreational activities, as an expression of gratitude to the deity they worship for the bountiful harvest, and as a means of connecting the community with the supernatural forces for collective well-being. Kut is celebrated by various ethnic groups that were historically referred to as the Kuki Chinlushai in colonial times. These groups are scattered across regions that now constitute present-day states like Mizoram, Tripura, Manipur, Assam, Bangladesh, and Burma. They share a common belief that their ancestors emerged from the earth through a capstone known as Chinling, Sinlung, or Kol. The festival is recognized by different names among the various sub-communities within the Chinkuki Mizo group. For example, it is called Pal Kut in Mizoram and is celebrated over 2 days in December each year. Its primary purpose is to express gratitude to the deities for a successful harvest, and the festivities involve singing, dancing, and merrymaking. How Shivang Kut was traditionally celebrated. The term Shivang translates to autumn in the Thada Kuki dialect, and Shivang Kut is a post-harvest festival observed by the Thada-speaking Kuki group. Traditionally, it involves merrymaking, the singing of folk songs, the consumption of rice beer, Jew, dancing, and traditional sports like greased pole climbing, high jump, long jump, wrestling, and more. In the past, the Kut festival was primarily important in the religio-cultural sense. The underlying principle behind the observance was to give credits to the gods for the abundant harvest. It was a form of communication by the community to the supernatural elements and was originally inspired by a socio-religious function. Kut was observed differently with no systematic planning, elaborate programs, expensive budget, or scheduled date. It was not in practice to mark out a specific day to commemorate the celebration of the post-harvest festival. The celebration was confined within a village and each village celebrates it differently. Modern-day celebration of Kut festival. Kut has been formally celebrated since the year 1979 in the state of Manipur. It is celebrated on November 1st of every year with the following items as a crucial part of the program: an invocation prayer, cultural dances, songs, cultural displays, beauty contest, speeches from invited dignitaries who are either political leaders, government officials, particularly bureaucrats, or decorated local persona in different fields of accomplishments. Meanings and significance of folk dances in Kut Festival. Folk dances are performed during Kut Festival. These performances included the Sa'i Chang'ai dance, Julay Khan, Sagal Kenkai, Salu Lap Lam, and Athingal Hangam. The Sa'i, animal ritual, and Chang'ai, paddy ritual, dances hold equal importance, with the former performed by men and the latter by women. In the Sa'i ceremony, it was the duty of men to hunt game and provide ample meat for their families, while women were responsible for procuring abundant grain. The term Sa signifies animals, and Ai is commonly interpreted as subjugation, reflecting a ritual of asserting complete dominance over the animals killed. The Sa'i ceremony involved a man who had hunted a tiger, an eagle, a wild bear, a squirrel, or a jungle cock/partridge. According to Kailal Luvam, if the spirits of the animals killed were not subjugated in a ritual, the hunter's family could face ill health or misfortune. The ritual included a dramatized play, during which an egg was placed in the mouth of a deceased tiger, and its head was pierced with a bamboo spike. In this make-believe dialogue between the tiger's spirit and the Sa'i performer, the tiger was accused of theft, resulting in its deserved demise. Similarly, the Chang'ai dance represented a victory over the soul of the paddy, and the ceremony was exclusively conducted by women. It was performed by an individual who had harvested surplus grains over multiple years, far exceeding the household's requirements. During the ritual, village youths assisted in carrying the rice grains and scattered them from the agricultural field to the performer's house. This act symbolized the fulfillment of the performer's duty and served as a thanksgiving gesture to God for the bountiful harvest. Only individuals who had performed this ritual during their lifetime were believed to have an uninterrupted passage to the afterlife, referred to as Mithikuo. The Thadakukis held the belief that a demon named Kulsamnu awaited all spirits of the deceased, tormenting them except those who had performed the Sa'i or Chang'ai ritual. Both Sa'i and Chang'ai had to be conducted 3 times during a person's life. Salyalaplam, the dance that displayed animal skulls, was performed during the Sa'i and Chang'ai rituals. The heads of all jungle animals killed throughout the year were gathered in the chief's house, and a feast was declared for the entire village. This dance aimed to convince the spirits of the deceased animals to acknowledge their belonging to the world of the dead and depart from the land of the living. After the dance, the priest would recite incantations, addressing the spirits of the deceased animals and bidding them farewell. The Sagal Kenkai dance, inspired by the movements of wild boars in the jungle, played a significant role in Thadakuki culture. Wild boars were involved in life cycle rituals, including birth, marriage, and death, marked by their sacrifice for communal feasting. Additionally, wild boars were often sacrificial animals used to reconcile disputes between individuals or families or to settle penalties for defying societal norms and practices. This dance involved participants forming a circle, with both men and women intermingling and moving in a synchronized manner. At regular intervals, they would bend and straighten their knees. 2 men and 2 women would then perform a dance in the center, mimicking the march of a wild boar through the jungle. The folk dances are not merely a showcasing of art, rituals, or an act of recreation. They reflect the cultural lore, orientation, and worldview of the community practicing them. They show what elements are important to the Thadakukis, for example community life, as also the centrality of the wild boar/pig in the customary practices and culture. Land is valued and the agricultural system as a life-giving source is deemed important, therefore, both were highly ritualized and celebrated. The Thadakukis also believed in the concept of a benevolent God who is omnipotent and needs to be propitiated. Their belief in the continuation of life after death is evident from the kind of preparation that is being made for their journey into the world of the dead. The setting stage for folk dances has changed today from the village courtyard to the formal stages either of the state or of a social or political event. Political elements of Shevang Kut. Even in the past, the celebration of Shevang Kut had played a very important political function in the village administration. Any member of a village failing to participate in the post-harvesting festival without a proper justification for his or her absence was considered no longer a denizen of the village. It could affect their membership to the village. It was also a time of the year when a meeting would be held under the leadership of the village chief. The villagers who were excommunicated from the village precinct due to some wrongdoing, or deviant behavior were reintegrated to their village. They were known as Jie Changs, social loners, and they could also be excommunicated from the village due to an illness that was considered to be contagious or unclean. Even on the actual days of the celebration, it would be the Samengpachong, minister to the village chief, who would guide and inaugurate the dancing session. It would be moderated by the leader of the women's group, Nupi Lam. When the Hausa, chief, of the village finally joins in, it is an indication that it is time for the villagers to disperse and the priest would formally close the ceremony. The Hill Valley descent and its implications on the Shevang Kut celebration. There have been varied forms of contestation for land rights between the hill and valley communities in Manipur. The spatial pattern of ethnic groups in the state itself is a major source of contention and discontentment. Manipur's population comprises three major ethnic groups, the Métis of the valley, and the Nagas and the Kukis of the surrounding hills. However, the hill-valley imbroglio is not a recent phenomenon. The hills and valley territories were administered differently by the British administrators on the justification that they both had entirely different customs and languages. On the eve of independence, the Manipur State Interim Council was formed to facilitate a separate hill administrative regulation. The state agencies in the post-colonial period have continued with the system adopted by the colonial rulers while making laws for the hill areas. Even today, Manipur is a society in which there is the presence of multiple ethnic groups, with varied positions on territorial integrity, local governance and dual administrative governance of the hills and the valley. The demand for inner line permit systems regulation in Manipur was fueled by a motive to control migration of outsiders, any non-Manipuris, into the state. According to historians, the ILP, previously known as the Bengal Inner Line Regulation of 1873, was introduced to keep outsiders from entering the hills, to confine the tribals across the inner line and prevent them from raiding the plains, not necessarily to protect the tribals, and to protect the interest of the British Company. However, this line was never implemented in the Manipur state as it was largely autonomous till the year 1891. The ILP movement resulted in the passing of 3 bills in the Manipur State Assembly on August 31, 2015, and this evokes widespread opposition and protest from the various hill tribes of Manipur. The 3 bills were, the Protection of Manipur People Bill, 2015, the Manipur Shops and Establishments, 2nd Amendment, Bill and the Manipur Land Revenue and Land Reforms, 7th Amendment, Bill, 2015. The hill tribes were suspicious of these bills and construe these to be a part of the dominant Métis community's plan to dispossess them of their land by undermining Article 371C and attempting for a uniform law, therefore equalizing the land rights for both the hills and the valley communities by means of the MLR and LR, 2015 Act. The 7th Amendment of the MLR, LRA, 2015 proposed the removal of the very section, 158, which prohibits the sale of land belonging to scheduled tribe to a non-scheduled tribe person without the prior consent of the Deputy Commissioner. Under Section 14A, the State Cabinet is given the final authority/final decision for the purchase of land by a non-scheduled tribe person. As soon as the bills were passed in the State Assembly, there was an upsurge in the hills. Many of the tribes of Manipur, including the Kukis, refused to participate in the state-level Kut celebration held at Imphal in the year 2015 in solidarity with the Churachandpur incident. Kut in Imphal was sponsored and organized with the aid of the Manipur government, and therefore, the tribals wanted to dissociate themselves with the celebration. It was also felt that the Imphal Kut celebration, which honors the Métis MLAs and political leaders, do not really represent the cultural life and lore of the people. The low attendance at the Kut celebration in Imphal was still evident in 2016, 1 year after the grim incident of 2015. Parallel to the state-level Kut celebration, another one was started in Moortown of Chandel district of Manipur. It was shifted to Churachandpur district from the year 2015. The celebration tries to bring back to memory all the practices and elements of the past that were associated with the festival. The chief guest for the event, Mr. Lalthan Hala, Chief Minister of Mizoram, is carried on a bamboo palanquin as was the traditional practice with village chiefs in the past. The fact that the highest honor was given to the Chief Minister of Mizoram, a political leader in the neighboring state, rather than the political leaders of Manipur, can be construed to be both a passive form of protest as also an identity assertion of their closer affinity or blood ties with the Mizos. Kut as a unifying and reconciliatory mechanism of the state, a failure. In the past, celebration of state-level Kut festival was an attempt to forge unity between the dominant Métis communities and the various tribes of the Chinkuki Mizo group of people. As is the modern tradition, every year, many political leaders and bureaucrats were made the dignitaries. Even in the state-level Kut celebration 2022 witnessed participants from many Métis dignitaries, including the chief agent of violence N. Biren Singh and endorser of terrorist group Arambai Tengal Sanajaba. Unfortunately, this experiment to use Kut as a unifying and reconciliatory mechanism has failed, with many CSOs from the Kuki community opting to observe this year Kut festival as a day of prayer for a separate administration away from the Métis. In fact, the Manipur Métis government celebrated Kut by sending Métis police commandos and Medii terror group Arambai Tengal to burn and loot houses at Sinam village in Tengnupal district. These are strong evidence of hatred and animosity projected by the majority Métis against the Kukis. Hence, separated administration is the only solution. Clarion call to all the Kukis. May this year post-harvesting festival bring together the Chin Mizo Kuki group of people on a common stage as brethren with a common origin, history, and culture, leading us to identity affirmation as it offers an opportunity to emphasize values, to announce, define, and reaffirm commitment to our people and our way of life. Let not the atrocities committed against us drag us down. Instead, let it be the source of our strength in our fight against Métis tyranny. For the first time in India's independent history, we the Kukis are unable to celebrate the auspicious Shivang Kut festival. We are denied our cultural rights as enshrined in Article 29. Since Shivang Kut is one of the medium of expressing our culture and traditions, the Meiteis have even denied us our right to freedom of expression as enshrined in Art. 19 of our constitution. Meitei community in cohort with the government of Manipur has violated the fundamental rights of the Kukis. We are denied our rights in our ancestral lands. Therefore, all Kukis must resolve to defend our ancestral land and must not settle for nothing less than a union territory so that we may celebrate the next Shivang Kut in a grandiose manner, free from the tyranny of the Meiteis.